Hi everyone, it's Simon Keeling here, weatherweb.net. Thanks again for watching. As always, the site's get free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen, and by you coming back and using the site. That's what keeps us free of charge, so thank you for doing that. Big question mark over what happens next week. Few interesting events look like they're going to take place, and certainly the models are in some disagreement as to what happens. But let me just give you the overview as to how things look just at the moment. This is the chart from 6 o'clock this evening. This is the prediction chart from the GFS ensemble. You can see here we've got low pressure down to the south, low pressure out towards the west, and we've got an easterly flow across the country, making it feel pretty chilly out there through this evening. Indeed, it has through most of the day. Now, into tomorrow, we stay with that easterly flow look coming in from the North Sea. It may just produce some snow showers down these eastern coasts. Elsewhere, I think fairly cloudy, but there will be an area of rain, sleet and wet snow in there, although it's only ever going to be very light. I think tomorrow really is just a cold, cloudy, pretty raw day. Overnight into Wednesday, looks as if it stays generally dry for most of us. Could be quite a frost, well, a slight frost by Wednesday morning, -3s, -4s at the lowest. And then on Wednesday, you see this area of rain that's coming in from the west. This is kind of spreading in during the course of the day. We've got a warm front that's lying, actually no, the warm front isn't there now. We've got a front that's out towards the west here, which is moving its way eastwards. Now, through the course of the day on Wednesday, that rain edges in. It meets the colder air towards the east, and that means that we see a snow threat in this sort of area, I think, during Wednesday afternoon into the early part of Wednesday evening. Now, at the moment, I don't think there'll be a great deal of snow around, but we do have to account for the possibility of a covering for a time before it turns to rain as milder air spreads in from the west. Incidentally, note how the southeastern corner is staying drier through the day. And then we head into Valentine's Day, of course, onto Thursday, where we see rain moving its way eastwards. The weather not particularly in a very romantic mood, because it's going to leave East Anglia in the southeast pretty cloudy, with outbreaks of rain right the way through until the early part of the afternoon. But brighter weather is spreading into the west, and some milder weather too. It's one of these strange situations where behind the cold front that goes through, the temperatures will actually rise, because ahead of it it's been so cool. And what we will find are some showers just moving into western parts of Scotland and the west of Ireland as this area of low pressure moves closer in. Then as we head in towards Friday, low pressure tracks towards the north of Scotland. A general tendency for a building pressure to take place. That doesn't mean it'll be completely dry. See, we've got this front here that's moving its way northeastwards overnight, late on Friday into Saturday. That'll take rain with it and lead us to a pretty cloudy, dull, miserable, murky type of day on Saturday. Particularly western and southern coast is choked up with drizzle, I think, through the day. And then through Sunday we find a ridge of high pressure building in. Still, I think generally dry but fairly murky. Clouds should be breaking with some sunny spells coming through, but what I want you to take from this is this overall impression of the weather tending to dry up because of that building pressure that comes in. Of course, don't get too excited. We get a front coming through into the back end of the weekend and into the early part of next week. So this is taking us into Monday the 18th, and you can see how, though, look, this is high pressure here, high pressure here. So any rain that does come in, so this area of rain here, probably is going to be generally on the light side, and then we find that high building in during the early part of next week. Now, the question then becomes, what happens after that? This is the chart for next Tuesday morning, and you see that we've got sort of drizzly conditions over the top of us. Now notice that this isn't now persistent periods of rain. This is now just light, drizzly, generally outbreaks of rain. It's what happens after that, because that's the ridge building through. Interesting just to take a look at how the 7 to 10 day means to see this. This is the 7 to 10 day mean from the ECMWF on the left here, and this is the GFS on the right. Now then, this is going through from next Monday through to Thursday the 21st, and what it shows here is the ECMWF, look, this big ridge that it builds in here with above normal heights. See those orange colours there showing the above normal heights. Now the GFS keeps it more into a straight flow across the Atlantic with the jet stream just coming in here, look, and yes, builds a ridge, but the ridge nowhere near as strong as it is on the ECMWF. And I have to say that despite the ECMWF being very good over the winter months, I'm leaning towards this. This is what I think will happen. I think we're going to get this shot of cold air coming in, which will deepen the trough in the Atlantic, drive this system forwards, and will effectively cool off this part of the ridge. So what we will find is blocking, breaking off towards the north up here with high pressure coming in, this flow breaking through. So I'm still going to go for this idea of a fairly cool, fairly unsettled period from probably the middle to the end part of next week. So it's probably going to kick in around about the 22nd, as per the MJO was hinting at. I think what will happen is that the jet stream is probably going to be somewhere through here. And I think what that will do is bring low pressure across southern parts of the country, and I think that means that the south is going to be cool and unsettled, while the north is probably drier but colder. And I wouldn't rule out the risk of some snow across northern England, particularly over the hills at times. I think into the early part of March we stay with that pattern as well. And then I think what will happen is that with the block having been squeezed away back up to the north up here, what we'll find probably the middle of March is that tries to make an effort to come back southwards. The high builds back in, and we find a cooler east to northeast flow setting in once again. And it could be that that middle part of March goes into drier, more cooler conditions. Now, of course, it's still early days and anything can happen, but certainly, as I said, it looks as if things are going to become a little bit drier during when did we say, during the early part of next week, as this ridge builds in. So whereas now we're getting proper rainfall totals through the day, sort of 4, 5, 6 millimeters or so, I think next week we're definitely into the ones or so of millimeters of rain, and then probably quite an emphasis for the north on dry weather into the week after, but to the south, as I say, cooler and damper conditions. And incidentally, just going to show you this chart. This is the rainfall total, the accumulations in 6 hour steps over the next 7 days, and what you notice is that actually we don't get that much rain across eastern areas. To the west, look, this is by Valentine's Day, we've got sort of 20 to 30 millimeters of rain by Thursday afternoon. So certainly damper conditions out towards the west, but even as we move the sequence forward, look into the early parts of next week, you see there isn't really that dramatic an amount of rainfall even in the east. You know, we've got sort of 20 to 22 millimeters, but actually I think that's probably overdone a little bit. I think what we will find is through this zone here we're probably looking at 40 plus, so 40 plus millimeters of rain in the next week in that zone. I think through this zone here we're probably looking around something like 20, perhaps up to 30 millimeters. I think this zone out towards the east, certainly we're probably around the 10 to 15 millimeter mark. It's of that sort of order of things during the coming week. And unfortunately there's no mass area of dry air on the way, because even though we get high pressure building in into the early part of next week, it looks as if humidities do remain fairly static, fairly high levels, with that drizzle as well. Not going to give things a chance to dry out hugely, and probably no frost there particularly either. So I suppose middle of the road news really. We could do the frost, couldn't we? I know those of you who want to get in the fields could do the frost, just to try and get this stuff broken up a little bit, or at least some good drying days with wind and low humidities to get the moisture out of the ground. But again, not really seeing that either. Cool and dampish seems to be quite a good way to sum this one up. Anyway, hopefully that's been useful for you. Thanks again for watching. Remember, we kept free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen. By you coming back and using the adverts and using the site, that's what keeps us free of charge. So thank you for doing that. Thanks for watching, and keep the sun shining. Bye for now.